people, and it's gone on far too long.
Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. The beloved community belongs to divine oneness, and so does all that it achieves. I am holding in my heart the image of Skylar Herbert, a little black girl, 5 years old, the same age as my son, growing up in Detroit, Michigan, a radiant smile, the daughter of first responders. She was among the youngest to die of COVID-19 in our nation, one of now 110,000 people who have died from a virus that is disproportionately killing Black people. Her image lives in my heart next to the image of George Floyd, even as his dying words echo in my mind and in my soul as I hear him crying out for his mother. Their images live side by side because the decades of racist policies that made someone like Skylar vulnerable to this virus ran on the same assumptions that kept that white police officer's knee on George Floyd's neck. The assumption that Black people in America are disposable. Nako Beri, Nei Begana. I see no enemy. I see no stranger. These are the words of Guru Nanak, the first teacher of the Sikh faith, my faith. These words are inscribed in my heart. My faith calls us to a path of revolutionary love, that we are called to look upon any face around us and say, you are a part of me I do not yet know. You are a part of me I do not yet know. It is a dangerous path, a revolutionary path, because if I see you and I choose to love you, that means I must let your pain enter my heart. I must grieve you. I must fight for you in the face of injustice. And so Skylar Herbert is my daughter. And Breonna Taylor and Nina Pop are my sisters. And George Floyd and Tony McDade are my brothers. And as I feel their loss and I feel this grief, my grief turns into rage. Righteous rage. For how long has America told us that slavery and Jim Crow are sins of the past and have no bearing on the disparities in health and income and education and safety of Black people today? For how long have we been told that the mass incarceration of Black bodies is somehow their fault, and that the police who kill their sons and daughters are worthy of exoneration? America does not know how to grieve Black lives, because doing so would mean accepting that there was never complete abolition. Slavery transmuted into segregation, which turned into discriminatory laws, and now into policies that appear neutral on their face, but still make Black people gasp for breath. From a deadly virus, or from an officer's knee on their neck. No, America does not know how to grieve Black lives. But there have always been people in America who did what the nation as a whole did not. They crossed the line and took the hand of someone who did not look like them and wept with them and cut down the lynching noose and attended the memorials and rushed to bury the dead to say, not in my name. First, people grieved together. And then they organized together. America's greatest social movements for civil rights and immigrants' rights and women's rights, union organizing, queer and trans rights, farm workers' rights, indigenous sovereignty, and Black lives were rooted in the solidarity that came from shared grieving. When people who have no obvious reason to love each other come together to grieve, They give birth to new relationships, even revolutions. A revolution is underway now. And so, to my Black sisters and brothers and siblings, I want to say to you that you are grieving, but you are not grieving alone. Not anymore. There are more of us now with you than ever before, more than in 1968, more than in 1992. Never before have so many Black people of color and white allies stood next to you. And so I wish to tell you that you carry this labor for justice, but you do not carry it alone. And your revolutionary act is to love yourself well, to let yourself breathe, to let yourself weep, to know that this is a time to take care of your own bodies and your own souls and your own children and your own families, for this will be one long labor, and we are committing ourselves to laboring next to you. And this brings me to people of color who are not Black, especially my own community. I see thousands of us now grieving with the Black people in our lives like they are our own aunties and uncles, parents and children. Now it's up to us to translate that solidarity into bold and concrete action. Our civil rights were won by Black people, and yet too many of us have let ourselves believe that anti-Black racism is not our problem and harvested our privileges. But we are also survivors of hate violence and white supremacy, and we know what it is like to be left alone with our grief. And so we have a choice in the days to come. Are we like Officer Thao, standing by, following the rules, keeping our heads down while Black people are dying from disease and state violence? Or are we what our wisest ancestors dreamed for us? Are we agents of revolutionary love? And that brings me to our white allies. I ask you to be more than allies. I ask you to be accomplices and conspire with us to break these chains of oppression. We are grieving together now, and I want you to know in this moment we have a chance like never before to dismantle white supremacy in America. But it requires more than declarations of support. It requires doing our part to reorder America's economic, political, social, and cultural institutions of power, and that means relinquishing some of your own privilege. I don't know what the future holds. As our president behaves as a dictator, and as our streets turn into a battlefield, and as our cities are burning, and as our police meet our protests against police brutality with more brutality, with tear gas and flash grenades and batons, I don't know what the next day holds. The future is dark, and so I ask myself a question I have been asking myself every single day. Is this the darkness of the tomb? Or the darkness of the womb? It is both. It is both. On the other side of this massive grief and suffering and death, perhaps there is a nation that is longing to be born. And so today we grieve. Tomorrow we continue the long labor. In Skylar's name, and in George's name, and in the name of all that we have lost, we weep, we rage, and we rise. And so I leave you with the Sikh Shabad for bravery that my grandfather taught me. Tati Vanalagi, the hot winds cannot touch you. You are shielded by love. May this prayer wash over you and give you what you need in this moment. ताती वान लगी पार ब्रह्म शनाई जोगित हमारे राम कार दुख लगे ना पाए सतगुर पूरा पेटिया जिन बंत बनाई राम नाम मुख दिया एक ऑलिव लाई राख लो तिन रखनहार सब याद मिटाई Go Nanak Kirpa Pe Prape Sahai. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Somebody's hurting our people, and it's gone on far too long, and we won't be silent.